public education roadmap, providing funds therefore and for other purposes by the Honorable Dimaporo. Honorable Dimaporo is present this morning. Does he wish to sponsor his measure?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I can be recognized.
Honorable Dimaporo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1859, I'd like to submit my explanatory note as my sponsorship speech. But in summary, I would like to say in the record that this was a product of the previous Congress, the 18th Congress. And under the leadership of our very able chairman of basic education, who has successfully pushed bills into national laws, here in the Committee of Basic Education, we also had problematic bills. Problematic bills that we had to figure out how we can put together because it was parang chapsuy, so to speak. Many different bills, and we wanted to put it together and consolidate it as one. And that was my task as chairman of the TWG. Which was all the different bright ideas of the representatives of the 18th Congress on how we can introduce digitalization into our educational system. And the quickest solution to that as TW chair was to put up a roadmap that will be funded, enacted into law, and be funded by the Department of Budget and Management. Secondly, is to implement pilot schools, because to see is to believe. And we wanted the best that the national government can afford to be implemented in the regions of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So the people can see what we can achieve if the government fully funds public schools for digital learning and so forth. Lastly, Mr. Chair, I filed this bill because we spent several hours crafting the public schools for the future bill, and I didn't want it to end up in the trash can. So I see that we have several colleagues that have filed several bills also. So should we move forward? Whatever is the quickest way to move forward, I will humbly abide by our good chairman, even if that means me recalling this bill and submitting to the House Bills number 636, 932, 1348, 1928, and 2466. So I would like to say that, Mr. Chair, and perhaps if we can hear comments from the resource speakers today, we can move for either the consolidation of these bills so that we can, as much as possible, as soon as possible, move it to the plenary and then to the Senate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Khalid Dimaporo. And for the record, we also, the committee really, and of course the plenary, would want to thank the Honorable Dimaporo. There were really many bills filed for purposes of providing laptops and computers to each student in our DepEd schools. And it was a task that the Honorable Khalid Dimaporo took upon himself. And he successfully was able to give us a version wherein which was acceptable to all authors and to all members. That is why it was passed on third and final reading. Just to add to what the Honorable Dimaporo has mentioned, as mentioned also by the President during his SONA, I think the thrust of the administration now is to provide laptops and computers to students in our DepEd schools. That was already the thrust during the 18th Congress. But because of the experience of many of the members of Congress, as mentioned by Honorable Dimaporo, it was decided that this bill would first require the Department of Education, together with other agencies, to come up with a roadmap wherein you will be presenting to Congress how you plan to unfold and implement computerization of the providing of computers to each DepEd student. We acknowledge the fact, I think during the TWG, I understand from the Honorable Khalid that it was brought up that maybe we are not prepared yet to provide for each student first resources. Secondly, we may not have the expertise, the teachers, instructors who will knowledgeable on compute information technology. Thirdly, we must make sure that our students are ready their rights are safeguarded, to ensure that they will not be abused when we provide all these computers. So that is correct. There is a roadmap that the Department of Education must present, and including the roadmap is the piloting of the PSOF, Public Schools of the Future in Technology, in order to make sure that we implement it properly, we see what's right, what's wrong, before it's implemented nationwide for every DepEd school. In short, I think that is really basically what we came up in the in the 18th Congress on third reading, and we are happy that the President himself mentioned the same thing during his last SONA on the fourth Monday of July. So with the permission of the Honorable Dimapore and all members, we can now proceed, in fact, to approve on third reading, approve pursuant also to Rule 10, Section 48, the approved version of the third reading in the House during the 18th Congress. And I think most of the members of the DepEd family were present then. Yusek Ann was there, Director Joyce Andayo was there. So they know what happened then. So we were with them when we passed this. So we can now take this up on the floor if there is a motion. If that is what the Honorable Dimaporo.
Mr. Chair, if there are no objections to the approved version in the previous Congress by the Department of Education, I would like to defer my House Bill 1859 and humbly ask the good chair to include me as co-author of the approved version of the PSOF bill. And secondly, I would like to also move for the approval of the approved version on third reading in the of the PSOF bill in the previous Congress. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion by the Honorable Kali Dimaporo that the third reading version passed during the 18th Congress of the PSOF bill be approved by this committee, duly seconded by the Honorable Escudero. Is there any objection? The chair, hearing none, same is approved. Thank you, Honorable Dimaporo, for your graciousness and kindness in withdrawing your bill. There's another motion by the Honorable Dimaporo. The motion of the Honorable Dimaporo is that he be made co-author of the approved measure by this committee on the PSOF bill. Is there an amendment to that motion? Yes, Honorable Dimaporo.
Mr. Chair, I would like to, if our members present here today will allow, I'd like to move, Mr. Chair, that all members present in today's Basic Education Committee be also made co-authors of this third version of the PSOF bill in last Congress, Mr. Chair.
There is a motion by the Honorable Dimaporo, duly seconded by the Honorable Chan, that all members present in this committee meeting who would wish to become a co-author of the PSOF bill be made co-authors, and that they signify it with the committee secretariat. Is there any objection? The chair, hearing none, same is approved. Thank you, Honorable Dimaporo. Honorable Chan? Thank you. Third matter on our agenda is the basic House Bill number 929, an act strengthening the promotion and delivery of mental health services in basic education through the hiring and deployment of mental health professionals and appropriating funds therefore. This was also approved on third reading during the 18th Congress. And for the information of the members present here this morning, this bill came about because it has come to our attention that there are guidance counselor positions in our DepEd schools which cannot be filled. The reason for that is simple. Under the law, a guidance counselor must have a master's degree. Under our DepEd setup, the maximum that a guidance counselor will be able to get as a salary grade is entry salary grade 11, maximum salary grade 13. So how will we be able to get a guidance counselor with a master's degree to enter into the DepEd family. Currently, my understanding is that some of our teachers have acted as a guidance counselors. So instead of merely focusing on teaching, they are now also doing counseling. Pursuant also the declaration of the Vice President herself, the Secretary of Education, that we must provide non-academic personnel so that teachers are free to teach. This is a living example of what we want to do. Basically, the bill provides as follows. We will create an office in all divisions so that there is a career path for guidance counselors. Once you reach the level of the division's office, you will get the maximum of a salary grade equivalent to SG 24. I think that is 88,000. From there, you can rise up to the central office. We also acknowledge the fact that there are not sufficient number of guidance counselors yet. I think nationwide we have a little more than 3,000 registered guidance counselors. We need about 54,000 guidance counselors. So what we have done was we opened up under this bill what we call guidance associates. Those who have graduated from BS Psychology or related or allied courses and have had a minimum of 12 units in behavioral science and have been trained about 200 hours so that they become temporarily guidance associates while we are still looking for guidance counselors. We have also accepted the fact that this may not be enough. So we also have guidance teachers provided also in the bill until we have filled up the required guidance counselors. But the difference is if you are a guidance teacher or an associate teacher, you will be given an additional remuneration. Currently, I don't think you are. So we will give them an additional remuneration so that their work is also compensated. Having said that, I'm hoping for the consideration of the members of this committee to approve said measure as approved in the 18th Congress on third reading. Yes, Honorable Manuel?
Just to add, Mr. Chair, para din sa ating mga estudyante, this bill will be very important, especially because of the need to address mental health concerns among our students that has already been existing before the pandemic, and it has also aggravated during the pandemic. That is why having more efficient mental health services sa loob ng ating mga campuses ay makakatulong hindi lamang sa ating mga kabataan pero para din ma-unload yung ating mga teachers at matulungan din yung ating mga magulang doon sa pag-address ng mga usaping kinakaharap na ating mga kabataan. With that, I strongly support this bill and leading towards the promotion of mental health, I move that we approve this bill.
I second, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
there's a motion. Let me dispose of the motion first. There is a motion by the Honorable Manuel, duly seconded by the Honorable Dimaporo and Honorable Escudero, that we approve, this committee approves House Bill number 929 as approved on third reading by the 18th Congress. Is there any objection? The chair hearing none, same is approved. Honorable Dimaporo.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to also move that if the members present today would like, that all members present in today's Basic Education Committee meeting be made co-authors of the said bill, Mr. Chair. I so move.
Second, Mr. Chair.
There is a motion by the Honorable Dimaporo, duly seconded by the Honorable Escudero, that all members present in this committee meeting this morning who would want to become a co-author of this measure, so signify with the committee secretariat so they can become co-authors. Is there any objection? The chair hearing none, same is approved. Thank you to all the members again. The next matter is the Philippine High School for the Creative Arts System Act. Again, just a brief backgrounder. This was approved on third reading during the 18th Congress. And just as a backgrounder, the reason why we approved this was there were a lot of comments with respect to our K-12 program. If we recall during 2012, 2013, when this was first proposed, the K-12 measure, the Department of Education came to Congress and told us that the moment we approve the K-12 program, first, we will be able to diversify and be able to provide options to our studentry. If I remember correctly, the Department of Education at that point, more or less, were saying that they forecast 52% would go to the academic track, about 20 to 30% would go to the tech voc track, 10% would go to the sports track, 10% would go to the arts and design track. During the hearings in the last Congress, I think it is very clear that for the arts and design track, we have barely 2% or less than 1% who have entered that track, way below the committed or the forecasted 10%. For sports also, I think it's less than 2%. So together with the members at the time, we thought it best to be able to provide, to be able to amend the different tracks to enable these tracks to be more viable for our students. For the National Academy for Sports system, what we did, and that was already passed, we created a board together with the DepEd and the Philippine Sports Commission to create a special curriculum for the sports track. For the creative arts or arts and design, that is the same proposal, that we create a special curriculum for those who wish to enter into the arts and design or creative arts. In the proposed bill approved on third reading then, we will have a board composed of the Department of Education to fix again the academic portion of the curriculum, because we want to ensure that they are functionally literate. We want to ensure reading up to grades 12. But we also need the expertise of the NCCA, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, and other artists in order for us to encourage and inspire Filipino youth to enter the creative arts system. I think we all know during the pandemic, many Filipinos were glued in watching K-drama and K-pop. But we know Filipinos are much better. But again, we are wondering why we were left behind. Maybe with the improvement of the creative arts track or the arts and design track, government will be able to support the creative talents of Filipinos and in the future be able to provide and take over as being the lead in the creative arts industry, not only in the Philippines or Asia, but globally. So that is the purpose of this measure. So with that, will the members consider the approval of the Philippine High School for the Creative Arts System Act?
Mr. Chair.
Third reading na lang.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Honorable Dimaporo.
move for the sake of expedience, so we can get this bill to the Senate. I move that we approve on third read. I move that we approve the bill that was passed on third reading last Congress. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Seconded.
The motion by the Honorable Dimaporo, duly seconded by the Honorable Escudero, the Honorable Nisay, that we approve pursuant to Rule 10, Section 48 of the Rules of the House, the approved version on third reading of the Philippine High School for the Creative Arts System Act during the 18th Congress. Is there any objection?
Mr. Chair. Can I be
Let
heard?
me dispose of. Is it Honorable De Venecia? Is it related to the? Are you objecting to the motion or not?
No, I actually wanted to make a motion to amend just a line in the bill before we approve it.
Honorable De Venecia, let me first dispose of the motion to approve. But if you will object, then I will recognize you. But if you will not object, then I will
Chair,
proceed first and dispose of the motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to respectfully object as I would like to propose an amendment before we approve.
There is an objection to by the Honorable De Venecia to the motion for the approval of the approved third reading version of the Philippine High School for the Creative Arts System Act. With the permission of the Honorable Di Maporo and the Honorable Escudero and Nisay, could I respectfully ask first for the withdrawal of your motion? And this being our first meeting, let us give the Honorable Escudero, Honorable De Venecia, let's hear him out first. But of course, I respect the motion, but if you will kindly withdraw first, I know that it's anyway for expediency.
If I just may manifest or state for the record for my good friend Congressman Toff De Venecia, we have a technicality at hand because what we have moved to approve is a bill on third reading. And if we're going to change that bill that was approved on third reading, even a simple amendment, then we have to go through the regular process of the committee, which will delay this bill. And that means that we will have to get, I would think, if we follow due process, we would have to get the opinions of our resource speakers again in regards to the amendment that our dear friend, Congressman Toff De Venecia wants to introduce. So that is the risk that we are taking. We will lose legislative calendar days should an amendment be taken up and distort the contents of what was approved on third reading. That's my comment, Mr. Chair. So
thank you, Honorable Di Mapor. Let me get back first to Honorable De Venecia because we don't want to get this into a vote.
yes,
Maybe
so
the Honorable De Venecia, with the explanation of the Honorable Di Maporo, may consider withdrawing this objection.
Mr. Chair, I yield. I'll just
Honorable De
propose.
Venecia, you can amend this in plenary. This will still be taken up on second reading. You are risking now, but of course that is your right. If you wish to delay the creative arts in our schools, then so be it. So do you wish to continue with your objection when you well know, being a seasoned member of this Congress, that you can amend this during the floor deliberations?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I yield to the suggestion and the wisdom of my good friend, Honorable Khalid De Maporo. So I will withdraw my objection and I will propose the amendment. I'm sorry, I'll propose the amendment in the plenary. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Honorable De Venecia. And of course, with that manifestation of withdrawal, the motion again, let me repeat the motion. There is a motion by the Honorable Di Maporo, duly seconded by the Honorable Nisay and Escudero, that we approve in this committee the third reading version approved during the 18th Congress of the Philippine High School for the Creative Arts System Act. Is there any objection? The chair hearing none, same is approved. Honorable Di Maporo?
Mr. Chair, if the other members of this committee who are present will oblige, I would like to move also, Mr. Chair, that all members present be made co-authors of the said bill. So move, Mr. Chair.
Second the motion.
There's a motion by the Honorable Di Maporo, duly seconded by the Honorable Chan, that all members present in this committee meeting who wishes to become co-authors signify to the committee secretary after the meeting that they so wish to become co-authors, will become co-authors. Is there any objection? The chair hearing none, same is approved. The manifestation of the Honorable De Venecia is also to be noted that during the plenary deliberations, we must wait for the amendment to be proposed by the Honorable De Venecia during, just to be noted.
Mr. Chair, If I also could suggest that our good friend Congressman Toff de Venecia submit his proposed amendment to the committee secretary for your approval.
Yes.
Perhaps we can include it in the committee report.
Yes.
If the rules will allow. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Dimaporo, and of course, the Honorable De Venecia heard the suggestion.
Yes, we'll do that.
Thank you, Congressman Toff. The next matter on our agenda is the National Literacy Council Act, House Bill number 930, an act renaming the Literacy Coordinating Council to National Literacy Council, strengthening its powers and function, expanding its membership and structure and support mechanisms, and appropriating funds, therefore, repealing for the purpose Republic Act number 7165. Again, this was also approved on third and final reading by the House. Basically, we are expanding the powers and functions of the council itself. We are adding members to the council, and for the information of all members, we are excluding as members the chairperson of the Committee on Basic Education of the House and of the Senate. I think it properly belongs to the executive department and not to the legislative department. So is there will the members kindly consider if they wish to approve or if they wish to deliberate?
Mr. Chair.
Honorable Franz Castro is recognized.
Yes, I move to approve for the second reading. The bill, House Bill number 930, Mr. Chair.
I second, Mr. Chair.
There is a motion by the Honorable Franz Castro that the committee approves House Bill number 930 and duly signed by the Honorable Dimaporo. Is there any objection? The chair hearing none, same is approved.
Mr. Chair,
Honorable Dimaporo.
I also wish to move that all members present be made co-authors of this House Bill 930.
I second, Mr. Chair.
There is a motion by the Honorable Dimaporo, duly signed by the Honorable Escudero, that all members present in this morning's meeting who would want to become co-authors signify the same to the committee secretariat, and they will become co-authors. Is there any objection? Chair hearing none, same is approved. Joboy. Unless there's any question by any member, can we proceed to the next part? The next part of our agenda will
Mr.
be...
Chair,
Yes, Honorable Castro.
I don't have any question, but I would like to just take manifestation for the approval of our bill, the National Education Support Personnel Day. Mr. Chair, while we are recognizing the importance of our teachers in the education sector, we are also recognizing by this bill the importance of the education support personnel. Ito po, Mr. Chair, yung tinatawag nating non-teaching personnel sa ating mga sa ating mga schools, division office, regional office, etc. Ito po, Mr. Chair, yung halimbawa nito, yung ating mga registrar, yung mga property custodian, librarian, yung mga utility workers, and the like, are those considered as education support personnel that are really equally important with our teachers. And with this, Mr. Chair, I would like to thank the committee for approving this. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Franz Castro. And of course, it was actually sponsored by the Honorable Manuel, and we thank him for sponsoring said measure. And it was approved because we thought it best that we send it immediately to the Senate. Thank you, Honorable Castro. With that, Honorable Dimaporo.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to make an omnibus motion for the approval of all committee reports of all the bills that were approved in this committee today. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion by the Honorable Dimaporo, duly signed by the Honorable Escudero, that all bills passed this morning by this committee, that its committee report also be authorized to be made already and approved. Is there any objection? Chair, hearing none, same is approved. Thank you, Honorable Dimaporo, Honorable Escudero. The next matter on our agenda is to have a briefing by the Department of Education. Before we proceed, may we have a few minutes suspension so that I can ask the members what we would want the DepEd to focus on? Because kasi ang dami rin naman, admittedly, marami rin naman talagang, although konti na lang naiwan from before, we want siguro to focus on what should be discussed instead of everything. Baka mamaya kasi pati details. Is that okay, Honorable Dimaporo?
I think that's a wise move, Mr. Chair. I therefore move for a 1 minute suspension, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion for a 1 minute suspension. Any objection? 1 minute suspension. This committee meeting is now resumed. Is there any? Yes, Honorable Dimaporo.
Mr. Chair, I see in our agenda that we have accomplishment reports and updates from the Department of Education for the year 2021 and perhaps in the next year or the future. But if we take up everything above the sun, we might not end in the proper time. So I would like to suggest, Mr. Chair, that we limit the discussion with our counterparts in the DepEd specifically to the opening of classes, which is a very urgent matter that we must take up today. And secondly, on what is the Department of Education doing on disaster-hit areas such as the places that are affected by, for example, Typhoon Odette or the recent earthquakes, so that the Department of Education and our members, our legislators, are properly updated and we can provide a forum for them to raise their concerns. I'd like to suggest that we limit it to those two points in our agenda today.
Thank you, Honorable Dimaporo. Unless there's an objection from any member, I think we can do that for now, as the purpose of this meeting was organizational and to take up those bills on third reading. Honorable Dimaporo and members, maybe we can also ask them to also provide us with their legislative wish list that they want us to take up. Maybe individual members can sponsor measures that they would suggest for us to take up in this 19th Congress. With that, who will be the Undersecretary Epimaco Dinsing III? Good morning and thank you for attending this committee meeting. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, sir. If I may take off my mask. To the members, the honorable members of the Committee of Basic Education and Culture of the House of Representatives led by Congressman Roman Romulo. In behalf of the DepEd family, would like to extend our warmest morning to all of you. And with respect to Vice President Sara Duterte, as much as she wanted to join us this morning, she had a very important meeting to attend to, which is very important. But she also sends her regards, since most of the members of the committee are her close friends. First of all, we thank the committee for inviting us today, supposedly or initially, to share to you our accomplishments and updates on our plans, programs, and things that we have to deliver in behalf of the learners and the education committee, and of course share to you our legislative agenda. But based on the directive of our chair to limit it to certain items of school opening and how we are addressing the calamity hit areas, we will be skipping with the presentation and give you a few items on hand addressing those two concerns. Well, first of all, 2 weeks back, Secretary and Vice President Sara Duterte has already signed Department Order 34, Series of 2022, already specifying in details the school activities this coming school year 2022 to 23. And as you very well know, last July 25, we already started with the enrollment process and moving towards the school opening or general school opening on August 22 of this year. As of yesterday afternoon, total enrollees has already reached 18.2 million, and this is close to 66% of last year's 27.56 million enrollees for school year 2021 to 2022. The target this year is to reach 28 million enrollees, and with respect to the target, we are 65% of that, and we expect more enrollment coming in soon in the next few days before the August 22 opening. One major concern here, which was raised several times specifically by the private sector, is really to continue with the blended learning. But as mentioned already by Department Order 34, while we will allow blended learning and other means of learning from August 22 to October 31 of this year, it is already mandated and an obligation to all schools, whether private or public, that we will go face-to-face in-person learning by November of this year. And there's continuous communication with the private sector educational institutions through COCOPEA. This is a continuing dialogue, but in the meantime, the general rule is still for us to move for face-to-face learning by November. And by this time, on the public school side, based on the statistics we have or experience, close to 80% of the public schools in school year 2021 and 2022 have already been doing face-to-face. So this is no longer nothing new for the public schools. With respect to issues of health protocols and safety, it's very clear in Department Order 34 that there is no distinction between unvaccinated students to the vaccinated ones. And with this, part of the protocol is to continue with the counseling amongst the parents of our learners, including our teachers, to convince them to have themselves vaccinated, whether primary doses or booster shots. And we are in communication or constant communication with the Department of Health. We've been communicating with them since the previous week through ASEC Beverly Hall. And what we intend to do is to continue to do the counseling amongst our learners, parents, and teachers. And hopefully, when we get a number of these individuals or stakeholders who would want themselves vaccinated, again, by whether primary or booster doses, it's the only time we will set up what we call the vaccination sites. once we have the number or a substantial number of our stakeholders who would want to be vaccinated. So the protocols are there. Since the previous year, these health protocols to address or to ensure that COVID-19 response is present is already in place. And what we intend to do is have this replicated in all educational institutions, whether private or public. With respect to the issues of the calamity hit areas, and we're not limiting ourselves to the earthquake hit area in Abra and in the Cordillera Administrative Region, but also in the calamity hit areas in the Visayas and Mindanao, hit by Odette and Agaton. For the information of the committee, this is where we want really the help of our legislators, particularly the budget we would be needing to be able to address the repairs. As of present date, for the simply addressing only the earthquake hit areas, we need around 1.7 billion in funding to ensure repairs of the earthquake hit area in the north. However, if we look at it in the overall perspective, and I remember Vice President and Secretary Sara Duterte mentioned it, that we are in a quicksand right now vis-a-vis our facilities. Why? Because since 2015 or 2016, many of the repairs have not been budgeted for us to be able to address these calamity hit areas. In fact, as of today, the budget needed to be able to update and ensure that the repairs have been made is close to 40 billion pesos. And based on our consultation with the Department of Budget and Management the previous week, they mentioned that for our budget for next year, while the NEPs has not been finalized by as of last week, they've mentioned that for new construction, they have allotted 5.9 billion for DepEd, 1.5 billion only for repairs, and 2 billion for a quick response fund. Why is this called a quicksand? Because based on the evidence-based statistics that we have at the DepEd, for the last 5 years, facilities which were hit or damaged by calamities is averaging between 5 to 6 billion a year on the average for the last 5 years. Yet our quick response fund is only 2 billion a year. So the quick response fund itself may not be able to address the repairs. So it becomes a quicksand because since the budget for repairs is not enough to address the annual shortage or annual budget needed to repair the damage, the 40 billion will continue to grow every year because the budget needed to update the repairs is not there. And this is something that we're challenged right now to convince the Department of Budget and Management, or hopefully eventually Congress was the power of purse, to address these issues of the needed funds that we need to be able to address and update the repairs. So we want to go out of that quicksand, and the only way to be able to do that is really to get the budget that we need for purposes of addressing the repairs and maintenance. Right now, the focus of our regional offices is really to prepare for the opening of classes. We are all hands-on. Regional officers are all hands-on. And to be able to address the shortage of classes, we did a little survey amongst the regional offices. Without the intervention, we are expecting, based on the actual survey we had amongst our regional offices, we're expecting around 91,000 classroom shortages. But however, because of the interventions that we will be doing, and this is doing shifting, construction of what we call temporary learning spaces, with the help of the private sector and non-government or civil society organizations, we're looking at places where we can also use this as temporary learning spaces like basketball courts, putting up of tents. With those interventions, the shortage or the potential classroom shortage of around 91,000 will go down to 40,000. And as of the moment, we are still doing some strategies to be able to address that potential 40,000 shortages by opening of classes on August 22. But it's very clear on the part of Vice President and the Secretary Sara Duterte that she wants no delay in the opening of classes by August 22. So expect not that there will be some delays in the area. We will make sure that classes will open as scheduled on August 22. We are fast-tracking our strategies to address the shortage, and hopefully by August 22, all learners will be on board all teachers will be prepared, and we do hope that we will be getting the enough support from the ground, and hopefully our honorable congressman can also help us in certain issues concerning the budget. We would need to upgrade everything. We are already almost ready, except to address those issues where repairs and maintenance are needed to be able to have the school facilities for our learners. In the meantime, Mr. Chair, basing on the directives that you mentioned a while ago, with respect to what should be discussed with the committee this morning, these are our updates, and maybe you can make some clarifications, questions. Our colleagues with the Department of Education are more than ready and able to answer your queries. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Yusek Densing. And could you submit to the committee for perusal of all members if you have any prepared, if you were supposed to have a prepared?
Yes, sir. I'm addressing this to Director Roger Masapol to submit to the committee our presentation materials.
Yes. Thank you, Yusek Densing. Thank you, Director Roger. Any
Mr. Chair?
member? Yes, Honorable Dimaporo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see that the problem really is the Department of Budget and Management when it comes to our school facilities. And just to keep our members of the 19th Congress, informed on what is happening, I would like to request, Mr. Chair, that the Department of Education submit to the Committee Secretariat the executive order in regards to the Mandanas ruling, stating what should be funded by the national government and should be funded by the local government. It is my understanding that the executive order that delineates national and local funds does not include classrooms. However, in contrast to the executive order, the DBM issued a national budget circular. The DBM, in its own interpretation of the Mandanas ruling, included classrooms and said that it should not be funded by the national government and should be funded by the local government because of the Mandanas ruling. This is a disaster in the making, because we all know that local government units cannot afford to maintain or build classrooms. They need the help of the national government. And this is a fight that I foresee this coming budget season, when the members of the 19th Congress find out that there is a mismatch between the executive order and the national budget circular. I'd like to also ask, Mr. Chair, that the Department of Education submit to the committee secretariat the official position paper of the Department of Education, signed by no less our Vice President Saro Duterte and Secretary of the Department of Education, on the department's position in this matter, whether or not we should follow the executive order or we should submit to the DBM memorandum, DBM National Budget Circular. I simply want to request those, sir, Mr. Chair, because once we get those documents, I think we will have what we need to confront the DBM when we discuss the 2023 budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Honorable Dimaporo, just to clarify, what we are requesting is submission by the Department of Education of the executive order and the NBC by the DBM, and the official position of the Department of Education with respect to this particular documents.
Yeah,
Yes,
Mr.
Honorable. Before I recognize you, Joe, I will ask Yusek Densing to respond.
Mr. Chairman, we'll just respond. We will abide with the request of Congressman Khalil to submit the documents. But firsthand already, we will mention to you that as early as 2 weeks ago, we've already submitted a letter addressed to the DBM and the Secretary of the DILG that our position is that the Mandanas Garcia ruling does not include school buildings. And this is the reason why, in our discussions with the DBM, we'd like the school buildings program budget returned to the DBM, which in the 2022 budget was taken away because the DBM felt at the time that the school building should be given to the LGUs because of the Mandanas Garcia ruling. And if I may mention, Mr. Chair, I just forgot our legislative agenda. I'll make mention just 3 items for the consideration of the committee. One is already mentioned by the President for the consideration of the committee, for the return of a bilingual type of medium of instruction using English and Filipino as the medium of instruction, thereby amending Republic Act 10533, which is the K-12 Act, making the mother tongue auxiliary or a secondary language, and the main language or medium of instruction should be English and Filipino. In other words, the general rule is English and Filipino with the exception of mother tongue, which can be used in areas where English and Filipino are really not the language or vernacular of the community. It is only where the mother tongue can be used. The other one is, of course, the discussion of the return of ROTC in senior high school. And we are also in coordination with the Commission on Higher Education, to which where the ROTC should be given. Is it senior high school or higher education? The third one, top three, is amendment to the local government code of the SEF, or Special Education Fund, which as of today has a limited menu. So we wanted to expand the menu and, of course, increase the 1% SEF of the real property taxes to 2%, Mr. Chair. So those are the top three, but in our presentation, there are actually more.
Would you submit all that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Honorable Dimaporo, are you satisfied with the response?
Yes, and just to expedite the documents that we can get from the Department of Education, the letter that DepEd sent to the DBM will suffice for my request, Mr. Chair, so long as VP Sara Duterte, our secretary, has signed it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That will be provided to our ComSec. So any member who wishes to have a copy, let me recognize first the Honorable Joboy Aquino. He has been already raising his hand.
Yeah,
Honorable Joboy Aquino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yusek, maybe also you can also submit to the committee a survey of mga school buildings that are made of wood. Di ba? Kasi ito yung mga vulnerable din eh. More on sa mga provinces na area sa Mindanao, I'm 100% sure. No? In fact, I have talked to your people na kung pwede, wala na yung mga wood. Although, it will be much cheaper for us if we allow the mga hardwood kasi ando ng mga sa amin, sources. No? So, yung mga ganyan na na idea. No? Then, I am one with Mr. Chairman. I'm one with Congressman Dimaporo, no, in regards sa Mandanas. Kasi baka maka-create ng and also for the increase of 2%. I came from an LGU for two terms, no. There are some LGUs na may pera talaga, no, like yung LGU ko. Hindi naman magagalit yung mayor, no. Alam mo yun. So maganda yung 2% na increase out of the real property tax para sa Special Education Fund. No, maganda. And maybe we can sit down with the LGU, no, para mas malaki ang malalagay natin. We have to sit down. You guys have to sit down with the LGU, no, para mas malaking maabot natin partnership with the LGU. Like for example, in my case, okay kami na mayor. Any given time with you around, pwede tayong, di ba, mag-sit down and work together. Kasi may pera alam ko galing ako doon. Di ba? So, mas maraming malalagay natin na classroom. No? So, and also, well, yan na lang muna. Billions ng pinag-uusapan, Mr. Chairman
Yes. Let's limit it
kailangan
first.
mahati-hati natin to. Hindi pwedeng isang lugar lang.
That's correct. So all
Di ba?
members can have a
But
chance.
in your case, Mr. Chairman, dito naman sa Metro Manila, mayayaman kayo dito. Billions. Kami ang kawawa sa Mindanao. Nakakaawa kami. Kaya if only you can, the DepEd can go down to Mindanao, and I will make representation sa LGU namin. I'm sure mapagbigay naman yung LGU namin. Then mas malaking projects magagawa natin. Di ba? Partnership. Di ba? So yun lang, Mr. Chairman.
This will be the last time we will call on Congressman Joboy. Now, Joboy, just to make sure, yung first request mo is that an inventory be provided by the DepEd of schools that are still made of wood. So, yes, as soon as possible para before budget hearing mako ni Congressman Aquino lahat yun. Thank you, Honorable Joboy Aquino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next member is the Honorable Rama.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. I just would like to ask the speaker if anong timeline? Because I have the same concern as member Chan from Lapu-Lapu City. And it's already been 8 months since Odette struck. And here we are talking about the opening of classes, but we only received 5 million. And our assessment with the Cebu City classrooms amounts to about 300 million. So I just would like to be informed on the status on how we can expedite the renovation of these classrooms.
Yusek Ann, you would be the one responding. Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and the Honorable Congressman. Sir, right now we have an inventory of a total of 16 billion that should be quickly or immediately repaired due to disasters and calamities. However, we only have 2 billion per year. And in fact, when the 2 billion is approved at the beginning of the year, it's already allocated for the previous year's repairs. So we have a backlog of about 16 billion just for the last 2 years. But if we will total the entire backlog of repairs due to disasters is actually the tune of 41 billion pesos. And if it is beyond the quick response fund time limit, we include it in the regular repair. And the regular repair is also piling up. And every time we propose to the DBM of the existing inventory, of course, limitation of the fiscal space, we only get really just for example, for next year, we are requesting for 86.4 billion, but DBM gave 5.9 billion. Initially, this is only 465 million, but because we made some hearings or negotiations before the NEP, it was increased to 5.9 billion. The repair is actually 41 billion, but for prioritization of other programs, we only requested 7.61 billion for next year as repairs, and we were only given 1.5 billion. So to go back to the QRF, sir, we are requesting that the backlog be funded immediately. Maybe not in 1 year, but maybe in a medium term, like 3 years, if we can catch up with the repairs. And if possible, we prioritize repair over new con right now. We also don't have enough budget because the QRF is only for repairs, but we don't have budget for TLS or temporary learning space. The immediate response that we can give, sir, if repair funds is not available, we provide a temporary learning space. And that is about 180,000 for supplies and made up of only wood and really just the roof. It's called temporary because really the purpose is for it to be replaced by the actual repairs needed. Another intervention that we are requesting, aside from the fully funding, at least for the next 3 years, is also the provision of the QRF in our GAA budget, which we will again repeat in the budget hearing, that the definition of QRF under DepEd is only for repairs, which is really not enough. If we can have PLS included in the repair as well. Second, sir, is also the use of the SEF. SEF, although it is also included there as repair, I think there are some feedback from the ground that auditors are questioning if local funds are used for properties of DepEd. So we are now in close coordination with DBM and DILG to remedy that by providing a template MOA for the LGUs to help us in the immediate repair. We call it a quicksand. And if we can get the partnership or the commitment of the LGUs to also prioritize repair over the new construction. Next is also all other funding that can be made available. The instruction of our BP Secretary is to exhaust all domestic local funds available, national and local, private sector as well. We might also revisit our Brigada Escuela policy, which is more on the provision of other needs, but maybe we can focus on the repair first. Also, the Adapt a School law which gives tax incentives for private sector or companies if they will give to the Department of Education. And lastly, maybe if all domestic funding are all exhausted, we can also tap some foreign funding. Anyway, DepEd is also part of the deliverables of the foreign loans that we have. In fact, we have about 2 active foreign loans that DepEd is delivering, but the loan goes to the National Treasury, not to the DepEd. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Honorable Rama.
Yeah,
Honorable Rama, before you proceed, Honorable Noel, I'll just ask Honorable Rama to proceed, and then I'll call you next. Honorable Rama.
Yeah, so this seriously needs legislative intervention, especially on the QRF. Going back to my previous question, can we have at least a timeline on especially in the Visayas area, Mr. Chairman?
Honorable Rama, but my understanding is your concerns and the concerns of the Honorable Chan are already included in their list of the 16 billion for the QRF. Their only problem now is that it must be they must be authorized by the DBM. So at the end of the day, maybe what we can ask is just the 16 billion to confirm that you are included there. And then I think we have to go to the DBM in order to facilitate the increase of their QRF from 2 to 16 billion. Because we will just be going back and forth because we're preaching to the choir. I think they are with us, except that talagang walang funds. But you're included in the 16 billion already that they inventoried. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, our request is the repairs is 1.5 billion only. That should be increased to 16 billion. While our QRF, our hope is to increase it from 2 billion to 4 billion so that we will not be pulled down in the quicksand moving forward. Because again, based on statistics, our annual repair for calamities is really 5 to 6 billion a year based on a 5-year statistics, Mr. Chair.
So could you provide Honorable Rama and Honorable Chan with a confirmation letter that they are included already either in the QRF or in the immediate repair? So that, and the timeline for that is simply the moment budget is released. Is that correct? Honorable Rama, will that satisfy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. More, if you have more questions, Honorable Rama, please proceed.
That would be all, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Well, could I, if that's a follow-up?
yeah, just the document.
No, Honorable Manuel, okay lang. Yes, Honorable Dimaporo.
Thank you. Just the document, since mentioned that there's a backlog of all these schools that have to be repaired, including those that were hit by a death. Perhaps, Mr. Chair, we can ask the Department of Education to submit that backlog to the committee secretariat so members of Congress can see how far off they are before they can be reached and be assisted. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, but again, there's a special confirmation only for Honorable Rama and Honorable Chan. Honorable Manuel?
So, good morning.
You can use my.
Thank you, Pang. Hello. Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning to our DepEd officials. I'd like to also request...
Honorable Manuel, could we all listen to the Honorable Manuel? Could I ask all members here to give the time to the Honorable Manuel? Honorable Manuel?
Yeah. I'd like to also request that members of this committee be given copies of the wish list, kumbaga yung original proposal ng DepEd to the Department of Budget and Management. I learned from the news that out of the more than 800 billion pesos requested by DepEd, so far, para ang mabibigay lang ay nasa 700 billion pesos. No? Doon sa kung ano yung tingin ng TBM na kayang ibigay so far. And I think yung 100 billion pesos na difference would be worth looking into. Why am I proposing this is because well, nasa medium-term fiscal framework ng current administration. Actually, it's number 6, safely reopen face-to-face education. While I raised many points about the medium-term fiscal framework and we'll still continue to discuss that. Pero kung nandyan naman na at yung House of Representatives ay nag-express ng kanyang suporta through a House Concurrent Resolution sa medium-term fiscal framework, then we should assist in making sure that those noteworthy objectives will be met. At kasama dyan, yung pagbubukas ng ating mga paaralan. Now, when we discuss safety, actually, I believe that this was written with the context of the pandemic in mind when we talk about safety. Pero ngayon nga, dahil din sa mga recent events, parang nagpapatong-patong na yung dapat nating i-consider when it comes to safety. Of course, the effects of the recent Northern Luzon earthquake, tapos nga yung hindi pa na-address fully na usapin ng repairs due to past typhoons. Kaya with that, that can help Congress dun sa paano din matitiyak na yung karampatang pondo to comprehensively resolve safety concerns, matitable yan at matitiyak yung pondo para dyan.
Just to clarify, Honorable Manuel, correct me if I'm wrong, the request is for the wish list, which you mentioned, Yusek Dinsing, earlier, that the committee be provided.
Mr. Chair, we will send the original wish list we
Yes.
sent to DBM.
Thank you, Honorable Manuel. Thank you, Yusek Dinsing. Any member who still wishes to clarify any matter? Kung wala on this point, what about the legislative agenda?
Mr.
Honorable
Chair,
Dimaporo?
if we can have copies of the bill, the templates or the proposed bills of the Department of Education to be submitted to the committee secretariat so that members of the committee can review it. And if we want to add amendments, we can make our own versions of the bill and file those bills immediately. So yes, the sooner we can get it, the sooner we can file those legislative acts, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dimaporo. Yes, Yusek Dinsing.
Yeah, we
you-
acknowledge, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Included here would be the expansion of the voucher system. No? You're going to propose that. Attorney Gerard Chan, you're recognized to respond. Attorney Chan?
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair and the honorable members of this committee. With regards that, what we have as a proposal here is the amendment of RA 6728, the Government Assistance to Students and Teachers in Private Education Act, yung GASTE. So we want to expand the coverage of GASTE to not only cover yung sa senior level, but also sa lower levels, elementary and all, and also to expand it not only to the students, but also to the teachers. Kasi yung GASPE is more focusing lang sa mga students, like the vouchers and all. Baka pwede rin ma-expand to benefit yung mga teachers din. Even in the private schools. Yeah.
As scholars or additional remuneration?
Subsidies.
Subsidies for the teachers? For teaching more students? How does that go?
Bali yung not only to be accorded to qualified students, but also to teachers of GASPE participating schools in basic education.
And what is the purpose of the remuneration to the teachers? Just to clarify, we're not questioning it. Yusek Sevilla?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Currently, the teacher subsidy is only for the ESC. That's grade 7 to 10. So we have voucher students for grade 11 and 12, which is the bulk of the voucher program right now. But teachers who are catering to our voucher students in grades 11 and 12 do not receive the teacher salary subsidy as of now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You will provide that to us, Attorney Chan, together with siguro just a briefer on current implementation of how it is and what is going to be proposed by the bill.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will do so.
Yes. Yusek Sevilla, Yusek Densing, since we're on the topic, just a question. Kakatapos lang po namin ng mga graduation few months ago. During the pandemic, may mga students that shifted from private to DepEd schools dahil di na nila kaya. Ang naging problema po doon, tinanggap natin sa DepEd schools na hindi pa sila bayad doon sa private schools nila. So ang nangyari, hindi natin pinayagan ata mag-graduate until makasettle sila na accounts nila with the private school. Some of the students, I understand, graduated with honors. So maybe we don't need a definite answer today, but sana that is also within the radar of the Department of Education, and to see what we can do about these things. Maybe a cap or something, pero kawawa rin yung estudyante. Talagang nagiging balakid tuloy yung economic situation niya. Of course, there are different situations. And so, yes, you
Yeah, we will take note of that, Mr. Chair. And most probably at this point, we will also be expanding our public assistance complaint center so that this information on the ground, which usually does not reach us, but maybe to some officials in the local government, can reach us directly. So these are something, the communication is key to this. And we will set up the policy for such, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Yusek Densing. I also don't know the answer, pero siguro moving forward, dapat may guidelines lang tayo doon. Any clarifications from any member? Before we adjourn, let me thank the members first who were present this morning and who participated. I think this is a productive meeting to the Department of Education. Thank you very much. Of course, let me acknowledge the Honorable Journey Jet Nisay, the Honorable Bernadette Escudero, the Honorable Josephine Tallado, the Honorable Daniel Manuel, the Honorable Cindy Chan, the Honorable Muhammad Dimaporo Khalid, the Honorable Doris Maniguis, the Honorable Alan Ujali, the Honorable Marjorie Teodoro, the Honorable Franz Castro, who was with us, the Honorable Tof de Venecia, Congresswoman Honorable Marivic Copelar, who was also with us, of course, our Vice Chair, Joboy Aquino, the Honorable Apid de los Santos, Deputy Speaker Dong Gonzales was also with us, the Honorable Rama. Thank you very much for all the inputs that you have provided to us. Is there anyone that I didn't mention who's in Zoom? Deputy Speaker Christine Singson Mihan is also with us. Hi, Christine. And so far, that is the list given to me. Again, thank you to everyone, to the DepEd family. Yes, and I think the members will be pleased to know that the Department of Education has provided already to us some of the requirements or requests that we have made, including the wish list, including the list that you also required, the Honorable Dimaporo. So the Secretariat will be printing it out for distribution for those who want. With that, I think we have exhausted today's committee meeting. Is there any motion? Yes, Honorable Dimaporo.
Mr. Chair, and again, I'd like to congratulate your leadership in steering our Committee on Basic Education forward. Congratulations to our chair, to our members, to the Congress, to the staff, and to the DepEd family for a successful first meeting. I therefore would like to, Mr. Chair, have the honor that we move to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn by the Honorable Dimaporo, duly seconded by the Vice Chair Joboy Aquino. Is there any objection? Chair, hearing none. Maraming salamat. This meeting is now adjourned.